Section 10.3 is on operations with radical expressions. So to add or subtract radical expressions, the radicands must be the same. So even though you can multiply radical expressions that have different numbers underneath the radical sign, you can only add or subtract them if they are the same. So for example, 4 times the square root of 2 plus 3 times the square root of 2 is equal to 7 times the square root of 2. It's as though you have 4 square roots of 2 and you're adding to that 3 square roots of 2. You have a total of 7 square roots of 2. Next example, square root of 2 plus the square root of 3. Because those radicands are not the same, you cannot add them to equal the square root of 5. And in fact, square root of 2 plus square root of 3 is as simplified as it gets. Let's take a look at a couple examples here. Number 1, 7 square root of 2 plus 8 square root of 11 minus 4 square root of 11 minus 6 square root of 2. So it's kind of like combining polynomials. We have these two here that have square roots of 2 in them, so those can be combined. And then we have these two expressions here that have a square root of 11 in them, so those can be combined. So just combine what looks to be the coefficient, the number in front. So 7 square root of 2 minus 6 square root of 2 gives me a 1 square root of 2, or just square root of 2. And 8 square root of 11 minus 4 square root of 11. 8 minus 4 is a positive 4 square root of 11. And that's as simplified as it gets. That's my final answer. Remember, you cannot combine that square root of 2 and the square root of 11. It just stays like that. My next example, 6 square root of 27 plus 8 square root of 12 plus 2 square root of 75 seems to be simplified because I can't combine, none of those radicands are the same, so I can't combine them. But at a closer look, I realize that I can actually simplify the radicals. 27 is 9 and 3, 3 and 3, so this is going to turn into a 3 square root of 3 with the 6 that's already out front. So 6 square root of 27 is the same as 6 times 3 times the square root of 3, or 18 square root of 3. And then 12 is a 4 and a 3, or a 2 and a 2. This is going to turn into a 2 square root of 3, and I already had the 8 out front, so that's going to be 8 times this 2 times the square root of 3, which turns into 16 square root of 3. And then my 75 is a 3 and a 25, or a 5 and a 5, which this is going to turn into a 5 times the square root of 3. So putting down the 2 that was in front times this 5 times the square root of 3, that's going to be plus 10 square root of 3. Now I actually have expressions that all have the same radicand, square root of 3. So I can just add 18 plus 16 plus 10 for 44 square root of 3. So if you can simplify the radicals, you need to do that first. Now multiplying radical expressions, you multiply the numbers in front and then multiply the radicals separately. Simplify if you need to, and use the distributive property and FOIL as needed. Our first example here is 2 square root of 3 times 4 square root of 6. Simplest way to do that is to multiply the numbers out front. 2 times 4 is 8. Multiply the square roots. Square root of 3 times square root of 6 is square root of 18. But 18 can be simplified. That's a 9 and a 2, and a 3 and a 3. These 3's will become 1 3 outside, times the square root of 2. So this is going to be 8 times 3 square root of 2, or 24 square root of 2. Example number 2, I have 4 square root of 2 times the quantity 3 square root of 2 plus 2 square root of 6. In this case, I want to use the distributive property. So 4 square root of 2 times 3 square root of 2 is going to give me 4 times 3, which is 12. And square root of 2 times square root of 2 is 2. And then just doing my second distribution, 4 square root of 2 times 2 square root of 6 is going to give me 8, multiplying the numbers out front, times the square root of 12. 12 can be simplified into 2 square root of 3. So this is going to give me 2 times 12 is 24, plus 8 times 2 square root of 3, which can be simplified into 24 plus 16 square root of 3. Be careful, you cannot add the 24 and the 16. The 16 is being multiplied by the square root of 3, and in order to add those, the 24 would have to have a square root of 3 itself. So there's your final answer. In our last example, we're going to be foiling. So I have the quantity 4 square root of 6 minus 2 square root of 10 times the quantity 5 square root of 3 plus 7 square root of 5. So I'm going to FOIL. So doing my first, I'll get a 20 square root of 18. So that's multiplying the numbers out front and then the radicals. Multiplying my outer is going to give me a positive 28 square root of 30. Multiplying my inner is going to give me a negative 10 square root of 30, because negative 2 times 5 gives me the negative 10. And then doing my last is going to give me a negative 14 square root of 50. Now, clearly I have two radicands that are the same. That's fine. Let's see if we can simplify these a little bit further. So 18 is 2 and 9. 9 is 3 and 3. So my square root of 18 is going to turn into a 3 square root of 2. Don't forget the 20 that was out front. Times 3 square root of 2. Square root of 30, 6 and 5, 2 and 3. That actually can't be simplified because the 2 doesn't have any 2 to buddy up with, nor does the 3 or the 5. So actually I can just combine these two. 28 square root of 30 minus 10 square root of 30 is going to give me an 18 square root of 30. And then 50 can be simplified. A 5 and a 10. A 5 and a 2. So that's going to turn into a 5 square root of 2. So 5 times 14 is 70. So that's going to be a minus, or actually let's go ahead and write those out. So 14 times that 5 times the square root of 2. So simplifying this, I'll have 60 square root of 2 plus 18 square root of 30. Negative 14 times 5 is a negative 70 square root of 2. So now I have two terms that have a square root of 2 in them. So I can combine those. So my final answer is going to be 18 square root of 30 minus 10 square root of 2. So the main thing to remember in this lesson is you can only add or subtract radicals if they have exactly the same number underneath the square root sign. Otherwise, something like this is as simplified as it can get because I cannot combine a square root of 30 with a square root of 2.